When Chen Ziyuan came out of Hu Kuei's office, it was drizzling outside. He didn't have an umbrella, and by the time he got to the car, his hair was already mostly wet. He opened the car door and got in, but didn't start the engine immediately. He rested his hands on the steering wheel and stared at the dense raindrops on the windshield. Brotherhood. 20 years have passed. He and Hu Kuei had carried goods together, drunk together, and delivered money to the provincial capital together. Back then, Hu Kuei even said that he would buy himself an apartment once he made enough money. But what happens in the end? 35 million. Not a single penny was returned, and he even lost his own house. They're making themselves continue to be cannon fodder. Chen Ziyuan gripped the steering wheel and started the car. When Zhang Miao got home, she was waiting for him in the living room. "What did you say?" Chen Ziyuan hung his coat by the door, sat on the sofa, and recounted Hu Kuei's plan word for word. After listening, Zhang Miao paused for a moment while holding the cup. "Road repair? Have the Housing and Urban Rural Development Bureau issue the tender?" "Yes, by Chongwen's line." Zhang Miao put down the cup and asked calmly, "When do you plan to tell Lu Ming about this?" "Now." "Then what are you still sitting there for?" Chen Ziyuan took out his phone, edited a long message, and sent it to Lu Ming. The details are very clear. Hu Kuei plans to initiate a tender for the major repair of Zhongxin Road through by Chongwen, the deputy director of the Housing and Construction Bureau, so that Kuei can win the bid and take over the project funds to recoup its losses and turn the company around. When the government said there was no money, Hu Kuei's exact words were, "He will have money." 3 minutes after the message was sent, Lu Ming replied with 2 words, "Receive." Chen Ziyuan waited for a while, but there was no further news. Zhang Miao leaned over to glance at the screen and said, "You still expect him to chat with you?" It's enough that he received it. Chen Ziyuan gave a wry smile and tossed his phone onto the coffee table. Lu Ming was sitting in his office when he saw the message. Fang Heng stood at the door, having just parked the Maybach and gotten in. "Fang Heng, go get me a glass of water." "Okowo." Lu Ming read Chen Ziyuan's message 3 times. The Central Road underwent major repairs, and by Chongwen of the Housing and Urban Rural Development Bureau issued a tender, which was won by Kuei. The road is a 2-way, 4-lane road that runs from the old town to the new town, with a total length of 7.8 kilometers. If you were to do a full road surface renovation and drainage upgrade, the budget would be at least 50 million yuan. Hu Kuei had a shrewd plan. Road construction is a project that benefits the people, and even with tight budgets, they have to squeeze out the necessary funds. As long as Bai Chongwen writes the tender well and sets the thresholds, Kuei will be the only local company that can take a slice of this pie. Lu Ming sent Fang Yu a message. Hu Kuei plans to use this to launch a tender for a major overhaul project on Zhongxin Road in order to recoup some of his losses. Fang Yu remained silent for more than 10 seconds. Source: Chen Ziyuan. Is it reliable? Reliable. Fang Yu didn't ask about the source of the information again and went straight to the point. If the major repair of Zhongxin Road is to go through a formal bidding process, it must be approved by the Housing and Construction Bureau's executive meeting, the deputy county head in charge, and the Finance Bureau's budget review. This chain is not short, and it's not something Bai Chongwen could decide on his own. But what if they all cooperate? Fang Yu paused for a moment. That's indeed fast. The Bureau meeting is just a formality. Director Bai will give a heads up to the deputy county head in charge, and the Finance Bureau can put the budget online as soon as it has a budget review report. Bai Chongwen didn't mind and asked, "President Hu, what's the matter calling so late? Did the National People's Congress mention at last year's meeting that the Zhongxin Road should be renovated?" Bai Chongwen replied, "Yes, there is such a thing, but the Finance Department has not budgeted for it, so it has not been approved." "Okay, you guys wait a bit. I'll handle things with the Finance Bureau. You just need to issue the bid as soon as possible." "Are you kidding me, Mr. Hu? The Central Road is nearly 8 kilometers long. Such a huge project. I even have a county head in charge of it above me." Hu Kuei interrupted him directly. "You don't need to worry about it. I'll go run it." "Haha. President Hu, the Treasury has no money, but you think running away will make it? You should know the financial situation these past 2 years. This project can't be awarded. Not issuing it." Hu Kuei's tone turned cold. Director by Lu Ming has pushed me to this point. You can sit back and watch the tigers fight. That's fine, but this bid is my last bargaining chip to turn the tables. If you don't agree, then What do you want? Bai Chongwen asked. Are there things you really insist I say over the phone? Hulk retorted. The point has been made. The meaning is self-evident. Isn't that unnecessary, Mr. Hu? Huh. What do you mean unnecessary? Hu Kuei said, Lu Ming stole my wife and poached my employees. He's pushing me to the brink of despair. Am I not allowed to fight back? Bai Chongwen didn't respond. Hu Kuei continued. In short, Director Bai, I'm done for. Pulling out the radish brings out the mud too. Bai Chongwen was silent for a while, then said, repairing bridges and roads is a project that benefits people's livelihoods. The Central Road really needs to be repaired. Here's what I'll do. You go and ask the finance department and the county head in charge. If conditions permit, I will not stop you. Bai Chongwen hung up the phone and cursed under his breath. Beast! At his age and in his current position, there's absolutely no chance of him getting promoted, but there's still a good chance he'll be demoted. His biggest pursuit for the rest of his life is to land safely. Sigh. Bai Chongwen regretted leaving himself vulnerable to someone like Hu Kuei. Just as he was sighing, his phone rang again. At first glance, it was Lu Ming. What's going on today? 2 big shots called me one after the other. But he dared not ignore Lu Ming's calls. Hey, Mr. Lu, it's so late. Aren't you resting yet? Lu Ming cut to the chase. Director Bai, we can renovate Zhongxin Road, but it must be put out to tender. Bai Chongwen almost dropped the phone. No sooner had Hu Kuei left the field than Lu Ming attacked, and his first move was right in the middle of the field. What does this tell us? This indicates that Lu Ming had people around Hu Kuei. Bai Chongwen felt a chill run down his spine. He sat in the swivel chair in his study, the desk lamp illuminating a copy of Code of Conduct for Leading Cadres, open on the table. It was issued by the Discipline Inspection Commission, and he always used it to place his teacup. Mr. Lu, your information network is quite impressive. Bai Chongwen chuckled dryly. Director Bai, it's not important whether my information network is good or not. What's important is whether this road should be built and how it should be built. Bai Chongwen didn't reply and waited. Lu Ming continued. The renovation of Zhongxin Road is a proposal from a People's Congress representative, which has a basis in public opinion, so there is nothing wrong with it in itself. But if it is turned into a targeted bidding process, then it is not road repair, but a blood transfusion. Bai Chongwen's Adam's apple bobbed slightly. Director Bai, you're the head of the Housing and Urban Rural Development Bureau. From the project approval to the online listing, every step of this road project has your signature. If problems arise in the future, you will be the one investigated. Bai Chongwen gripped his phone, remaining silent for a long time. Lu Ming's tone softened slightly. I'm not here to threaten you. I'm different from others. I'll only say one thing. Open bidding. Qualified companies can participate, and whoever offers the lowest price and the best solution will win. This is actually the safest option for you. Bai Chongwen finally spoke up. President Lu, I have no objection to open bidding, but the finance department doesn't have the funds. I will coordinate the financial matters. Bai Chongwen was taken aback. Just follow the procedures. The bureau meeting, the budget review, the online announcement. Follow the rules at every step, and I won't make things difficult for you. Bai Chongwen thought about it for a long time. Mr. Lu, can I think about it? Okay, Norus. Lu Ming said and hung up the phone. Bai Chongwen put down his phone, stared at the anti-corruption code of conduct on the table, reached out and moved the teacup aside, and turned to the first page. 9 o'clock the next morning. Lu Ming asked Fong Hung to drive them straight to the county government compound. He didn't call in advance, but dialed Sun Changming's cell phone after he arrived. Secretary Sun, I'm downstairs. I have something I'd like to report to you in person. Sun Changming was clearly surprised that he would come to him directly. He paused for a moment, but still said, Come on up, I'm in my office. Lu Ming went up to the 3rd floor. Secretary Zheng pushed the door open, and Sun Changming sat behind his desk with a document spread out in front of him and a red pen between his fingers. Seat. Lu Ming sat down without beating around the bush. Secretary Sun, I'd like to talk to you about the Zhongxin Road issue. Sun Changming put down the red pen, his gaze darkening for a moment. The renovation of Zhongshan Road has been proposed by the People's Congress for 2 years, but the government has been short of funds, making it a major problem. He didn't expect Lu Ming to bring this up on his own initiative. You say, Zhongshan Road runs from the old city to the new city, with a total length of 7.8 kilometers. The road surface is severely damaged, the drainage system is aging, and the public has expressed strong dissatisfaction. If this road is not repaired, the development of the new city will be nothing but a castle in the air. Sun Changming didn't speak, but nodded slightly. He knew these things better than anyone else. Lu Ming continued, I understand that the main reason why this project has not been launched is that the government cannot come up with the budget. We really can't afford it. Sun Changming admitted directly. The county's available financial resources are limited. We can't skimp on any of them, including people's livelihood, education, medical care, and civil servant salaries. We can't prioritize the Central Road. Lu Ming waited until he finished speaking before speaking. What if I advance the funds? Sun Changming stopped. What's the meaning? The project funds will be advanced by Yunming Investment in full, Lu Ming said slowly. The finance department doesn't need to provide the money all at once. It will be repaid in equal installments over 3 years, according to the project progress, without interest. Sun Changming's gaze sharpened. He had worked as a grassroots cadre for over a decade and had seen all sorts of tricks and schemes. When companies advance funds for infrastructure projects, they may appear to be doing good deeds, but what they often really want is project profits, policy exchanges, or even using accounts receivable as leverage to obtain money from banks. No interest, Sun Changming repeated. No interest, Lu Ming repeated. Road construction is a good thing for the people. How could I possibly charge interest? Sun Changming stared at him for a few seconds. Mr. Lu, what are you after? Lu Ming smiled and said, with the road repaired, Wan Jiafu's customer traffic will increase by at least 30%. Once this main road from the new town to the old town is open, the entire county's commercial flow will be revitalized. I can make that calculation work. Sun Changming nodded slightly. This statement made sense. Sun Changming stood up, walked to the window, and placed his hands on the windowsill. In the courtyard downstairs, several old locust trees are sprouting new buds, and 2 old men are sitting on the stone bench in front of the security room, waiting to handle their business. Do you know what this means? Sun Changming didn't turn around. No. Tens of millions of yuan in advance payments will only be repaid over 3 years. What if the leadership changes in the middle and the new team doesn't honor the previous one's debts? Therefore, a formal government procurement agreement is needed, Lu Ming said. It should be signed by the county government and Yunming Investment, clearly defining the amount of advance payment, repayment period, and liability for breach of contract. Legal counsel Fong, you can draft it, go through legal approval, and file it with the People's Congress. Sun Changming turned around. You've even thought this far ahead. I had planned this before I came. Sun Changming remained silent for a moment, then sat back down behind his desk. Mr. Lu, I have no objection. Then he said to Xiao Zheng, Xiao Zheng, notify Wang Weiguo from the Finance Bureau and by Chongwen from the Housing and Urban Rural Development Bureau to come to my office for a meeting at 2 p.m. He put down the phone and said to Lu Ming, come over this afternoon too. Good. Lu Ming got up to take his leave. The door closed. Sun Changming sat in his office, staring at the door, and didn't move for a long time. Xiao Zheng came in with a teacup and called out Secretary Sun, which brought him back to his senses. Why do you think he suddenly proposed building roads? Sun Changming pointed towards the doorway. Xiao Zheng thought for a moment and said, I can't figure it out. Sun Changming laughed. He's digging up Hu Kuei's roots. Xiao Zheng refilled Sun Changming's cup with water. Secretary, all that fighting and infighting has ultimately benefited the people. Sun Changming picked up his teacup and took a sip. That kid Lu Ming got the better deal. Xiao Zheng didn't respond. Sun Changming put down his teacup, then suddenly remembered something and said, let's go see Lu Ming off. Lu Ming, Sun Changming, and Xiao Zheng came out of the county government compound and happened to run into the traffic policeman who had given them the ticket last time, arguing with Fong Hung. Fong Hung, young and impetuous, said, "Didn't I tell you? My boss is talking to Secretary Sunday. We'll leave as soon as he's done." The traffic policeman smiled slightly. "Let's wait until he finishes talking. If he finishes talking at night, will this car stay parked until then?" "Hey, how can you be so unreasonable?" Fong Hung was a little angry, pointing his finger at the other person. "What? You want to hit me? Hitting me is assaulting a police officer. If you assault a police officer, do you think your boss can protect you?" Fong Hung was speechless for a moment. "Oomph." The traffic policeman snorted and issued a ticket, preparing to place it on the window of the Maybach. Suddenly a voice came from behind. "Weren't you the one who put up tickets here last time? Which brigade are you from?" The traffic policeman's hand froze in midair, his back stiffening. He turned around and saw Sun Changming. The traffic policeman's face turned ashen. "Secretary Sun?" "Secretary Sunday." The traffic police officer held the ticket in midair, neither daring to stick it on nor to take it back. Sun Changming didn't look at the ticket in his hand, but just asked, "I'm asking you, which branch are you from?" City District 1st Squadron." Sun Changming turned to Xiao Zheng and said, "Make a note of this." Xiao Zheng took out his phone and typed a few words. After hesitating for a long time, the traffic policeman finally took back the ticket, crumpled it up, and stuffed it into his pocket. "Secretary Sun, I was just doing my routine law enforcement. I know. I'll have your captain praise you." The traffic policeman opened his mouth, but couldn't say anything, and stood still. Xiao Zheng said, "Hurry up and go enforce the law. The county committee won't provide meals." Fong Hung stood beside the Maybach, without saying a word. Lu Ming didn't say a word from beginning to end. Sun Changming looked away and said to Lu Ming, "I'll handle this. You don't need to worry about it." "Thank you, Secretary Sunday." Sun Changming waved his hand and said, "Don't be late at 2 o'clock in the afternoon." Then he turned around and went back to the compound. Xiao Zheng followed behind, took a few steps, and looked back at Lu Ming with an indescribable feeling in his eyes. Fong Hung opened the back door and waited for Lu Ming to get in. The car door closed, and the Maybach drove away from the county government compound. Fong Hung glanced at Lu Ming. "Mr. Lu, I shouldn't have argued with him today. I'm sorry for causing you trouble." Lu Ming replied, "It's a small matter. They're just upholding the law, and you didn't do anything wrong. Then next time, there won't be a next time." "Huh." Fong Hung subconsciously stepped on the brake. "How could they fire me like this?" Lu Ming smiled and said, "I'm telling you, this traffic cop won't do it again." At this moment, Fong Yu sent a message. "I've contacted Hengda Construction. The boss's name is Zhou Qiming. They have a Class 2 municipal engineering qualification and 3 projects under construction. Their cash flow is decent. He's very interested in cooperation and would like to meet you. Let's meet tomorrow." "Good. 2 o'clock in the afternoon." The conference room on the 3rd floor of the County Party Committee building. Sun Changming sat in the main seat, with Wang Weiguo, the director of the Finance Bureau, on his left, and Bai Chongwen, the director of the Housing and Urban Rural Development Bureau, on his right. Lu Ming sat near the door. When Bai Chongwen entered, his eyes met Lu Ming's. He nodded and said nothing. His eye sockets were a little bluish. Clearly he hadn't slept well last night. Wang Weiguo seemed to be in good spirits, with a budget report tucked between his fingers. The cover read, "Feasibility Analysis of the Central Road Renovation Project." Sun Changming skipped the pleasantries and went straight to the point. "Today we only have one topic, the renovation of Zhongxin Road. The People's Congress has been raising this issue for 2 years, and the public has been complaining about it for 2 years. It's unacceptable to delay any longer." Wang Weiguo was the first to see the wind blowing and quickly chimed in. "Indeed, quite a few people have reported this, especially recently with the surge in popularity of President Liu's Wanjiafa store, which has attracted many tourists from other places. Some tourists have reported online that they were photographed twice for traffic violations on the 200-meter stretch of road. It really needs to be repaired." Sun Changming was taken aback. 200 meters twice? Yes, that's right. There are several sections of that road in very poor condition, with many potholes. The passenger swerved to avoid the potholes and crossed the line, Wang Weiguo replied. Our traffic police officers are very strict in enforcing the law. Sun Changming glanced at Xiao Zheng. After this meeting, let's schedule a meeting with the traffic police officers. Xiao Zheng nodded. Okay, secretary. Sun Changming stopped dwelling on the topic and looked at Wang Weiguo. Old Wang, how much can the government provide? Wang Weiguo opened a report. Secretary Sun, to be honest, the county's available financial resources this year are estimated at 4.9 billion yuan. After deducting rigid expenditures, the remaining funds available for allocation are less than 30 million yuan. Sun Changming didn't reply, but looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming said, Director Wang, what if the finance department doesn't provide the fund for the time being? Wang Weiguo was taken aback and turned to look at Sun Changming. Sun Changming said, President Liu has a proposal. Please listen to it. Lu Ming reiterated the financing plan he had discussed with Sun Changming that morning. Yunming Investment fully advanced the project funds, and the government will repay the funds in 3 installments over 3 years according to the project progress, without interest. After listening, Wang Weiguo took off his glasses, wiped them, and put them back on. Mr. Liu, no interest? No interest is charged. What is the approximate budget for the project? Bai Chongwen chimed in. Preliminary estimates suggest that the entire road surface renovation and drainage upgrade will cost between 50 and 60 million yuan. Wang Weiguo wrote a number in the report and did some calculations. If it's split over 3 years, it'll be around 20 million each year. I have no problem with that. Sun Changming tapped the table. Then it settled. Lao Bai, you come up with the bidding plan. It's an open tender, and the qualification requirements are in accordance with national standards. Don't add any additional conditions. Bai Chongwen leaned forward slightly, and his lips moved. Secretary Sun, open bidding is fine, but there aren't many companies in this county with municipal qualifications. If we don't have many, we'll recruit from the whole city. Sun Changming interrupted him. This road is the face of Yunming County. I don't care who builds it, but it must be built well and of high quality. Bai Chongwen stopped talking. He lowered his head and jotted down a few lines in his notebook. Hu Kuina's phone call from last night is still echoing in my ears. Hu Kuei wanted him to issue targeted bids. Lu Ming wanted him to conduct open bidding, and Sun Changming wanted him to follow the rules. He was caught in the middle of 3 conflicting forces, unable to afford to offend any of them. But given today's scene, the answer is already quite clear. Sun Changming made the decision himself, Wang Weiguo nodded, and Lu Ming provided the money. The 3 people sitting here weren't there to discuss things with him, but to inform him. Director Bai, Lu Ming suddenly spoke. Bai Chongwen raised his head. After the bidding documents are released, send me a copy. I'll have my legal counsel review it to ensure the procedures are compliant, so that there won't be any problems during future audits. It's good for you and the county. Bai Chongwen nodded. Okay. The meeting lasted only 10 minutes. After the meeting, Wang Weiguo walked the fastest, while Bai Chongwen walked the slowest. As Lu Ming walked out of the conference room, Bai Chongwen followed from behind. President Liu. Lu Ming stopped in his tracks. Bai Chongwen's voice was very low. You know about the phone call Hu Kuei made to me last night? Lu Ming looked at him, neither admitting nor denying. Bai Chongwen gave a wry smile. I'm getting old. I've never made any major mistakes or achieved any great merits. I just want to work peacefully until I retire. Director Bai, the best way to land safely is to follow the rules. After saying that, Lu Ming turned and left. At 6 o'clock in the evening, Hu Kuei received a call from Bai Chongwen. Secretary Sun held a meeting this afternoon, and the renovation of Zhongxin Road was decided. It will be put out to tender, and Lu Ming will advance the funds. Hu Kuei remained silent for 5 seconds. Open bidding, right? Who made that decision? Secretary Sun personally made the decision. Hu Kuei gripped his phone, remaining silent for a long time. Bai Chongwen added, President Hu, I can't help you with this. The call ended. Hu Kuei sat in his empty office. There was no assistant in the chair opposite him, and there was no footsteps in the corridor. The whole building was unusually quiet. He didn't understand. Only 3 people knew about this incident. How did Lu Ming manage to anticipate the enemy's moves? He dialed Chen Ziyuan's number. Ziyuan, Bai Chongwen's deal fell through. There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. Then, what should we do? Hu Kuei didn't answer the question, but instead said, Ziyuan, tell me honestly, has Lu Ming contacted you? Chen Ziyuan's voice came through, sounding a little sleepy. What? I'm asking you. Has Lu Ming contacted you? Chen Ziyuan sat on the sofa, and Zhang Miao was opposite him. The two looked at each other. No, Chen Ziyuan said. Why did he contact me? Think about it. Only the 3 of us know about Bai Chongwen's situation. How could Lu Ming have gone directly to Sun Changming for approval today on something that was just decided yesterday? How would I know? Asked Bai Chongwen. Maybe Bai Chongwen told Lu Ming himself. That old man always bets on both sides. Hu Kuei didn't say anything. Chen Ziyuan added, Besides, I'm going to seek refuge with Lu Ming. Why would I need to do it secretly? I'll just go directly. In my current state, what's there to hide? That statement makes some sense. Chen Ziyuan is now just an empty shell. His factory is mortgaged, his storefront is mortgaged, and even his house is mortgaged. If someone like that comes to Lu Ming's aid, Lu Ming might not even consider him. Addict, Hulkwisait. The deal on Zhongxin Road is half done, but not completely off. What's the meaning? I can also bid in open tenders. Chen Ziyuan was taken aback. You want to compete with Lu Ming for the bid? Hu Kuei didn't answer the question, only saying, Don't worry about it. I'll let you know when I've made arrangements in a couple of days. The call ended. After hanging up Chen Ziyuan's call, Hu Kuei sat in his office for a long time. The ashtray on the table was full, and cigarette butts were crammed together. He pulled out his phone's contacts, scrolled down for a long time, and stopped a name. Su Wen. He had saved this name for many years, but never dialed it. It's not that I don't want to dial. It's that I'm not qualified to dial. The world of martial arts in Yunmeng County is divided into 3 layers. Hu Kuei is far from being among the top players. He could even be considered one of the lowest tiers. Originating from humble beginnings, he carved out a niche for himself in the building materials industry through boldness and ruthless methods. To put it bluntly, he's just a contractor. The middle layer consists of people like Bai Chongwen. Officials with real power hold the authority to approve matters, but they are also pawns, whose positions can be moved at the slightest word from above. At the very top level are people like Su Wen. Su Wen is 32 years old this year, 7 years older than Lu Ming. He doesn't own a company or do business. His business card lists him as representative of the People's Congress of Yunmeng County and supervisor of Changlong Commerce and Trade Company, Limited. But his real title isn't printed on his business card. His father, Su Guodong, was the director of the Education Bureau. He controlled all the financial budgets for education, including education infrastructure construction, equipment procurement, and canteen bidding. His uncle-in-law, Wang Yongli, is the president of the county's First People's Hospital and controls the county's largest medical system procurement authority. His cousin is the deputy captain of the criminal investigation team of the County Public Security Bureau. His second uncle works at the Municipal Commission for Discipline Inspection. The Su family has been operating in Yunmeng County for 3 generations. The first generation was Su Wen's grandfather, who was a local gentry before liberation. When the public-private partnership was established, he handed over his property and was given the label of enlightened person. The second generation of Su Guodong entered politics and devoted himself to the education system, where he worked for the rest of his life. By Su Wen's generation, they no longer needed to do it themselves. He owns no real businesses, but in Yunmeng County, for municipal engineering projects, medical procurement, and educational equipment projects exceeding 10 million yuan, half of the companies listed on the tender documents have some unclear or unexplained connection to him. Su Wen usually doesn't show up. His presence in Yunmeng County was extremely low, so low that Lu Ming had never heard of him even after 2 months of research. Hu Kuei met Su Wen at a dinner party many years ago. At that time, Su Wen just sat in the corner drinking tea and didn't say much. At that time, Kuei thought he was just an ordinary second-generation rich kid. Later, he gradually learned that half of the rules in Yunmeng County were set by the Su family. He had never formally collaborated with Su Wen. He only got a job through Wang Yongli during a hospital bidding process. Afterwards, when he gave Wang Yongli the money, Wang Yongli casually mentioned, "You can talk to Su Wen if you need anything in the future." Today, he's finally going to use it. I pressed the dial key, and it rang a few times. "Who?" "Mr. Su, this is Kuei." "What's up?" "I'd like to ask you something in person about the renovation of Zhongxin Road. Would that be convenient?" "Now, depending on your time. Tomorrow afternoon. Come to the tea house on Ingbin Old Street at 3 o'clock. "Good." The call ended. There were no pleasantries, no formalities. Kuei put down his phone and let out a sigh of relief. The following afternoon, at 3 p.m., Ingbin Old Street, an inconspicuous two-story building. Kuei arrived 10 minutes early and was led to a private room on the second floor by a middle-aged woman in a cheongsam. A tea table, 2 armchairs, and a calligraphy scroll hanging on the wall that reads, "Sitting here quietly when there's nothing to do." Su Wen is already here. 32 years old, of medium build, wearing a pair of gold-rimmed half-rimmed glasses, a dark blue polo shirt with the cuffs rolled up, revealing a very old Longines watch on his wrist. He sat in the chair making tea, his movements slow and deliberate, washing the cups, warming the pot, adding the tea leaves, and pouring water, each step unhurried and patient. He raised his eyelids slightly when he saw Kuei come in. "Seat." Kuei sat down and placed his hands on his knees. He found himself a little nervous. Having run a business for 20 years and dealt with all sorts of people, he felt inferior only to Su Wen. This feeling didn't come from money or power, but from something he couldn't quite put his finger on. Su Wen pushed the tea over. "Speak." Kuei picked up his teacup, but put it down before even taking a sip. "Mr. Su, you've heard about the renovation of Zhongxin Road, haven't you?" Su Wen nodded. "It's a public tender, a project worth 50 or 60 million. I'd like to bid." Su Wen added more water to the cup. "Then go ahead and add it." Kuei hesitated for a long time, unsure how to begin. "What? Is there a bid in Yunmeng County that you, Mr. Hu, dare not submit?" Su Wen asked. "It's not that I'm afraid. It's that I'm afraid I can't compete with them," Kuei replied. "Can't we beat anyone in this competition? Yunmeng Investment Lu Ming. So go on." Kuei sat up straight, rehearsing the words he had prepared beforehand. "President Su, I'd like our 2 companies to jointly bid. I'll provide the qualifications and construction services, and you just need to focus on securing the bid. You don't need to worry about anything else." "Oh." Sylvain started at Hukui. "Joint bidding? I heard Lu Ming can advance the funds, 50 or 60 million. Can you do that?" "Yes, Mr. Su, I can. The target price is 5 or 6,000. We only need to cover the costs. Advance payment is just covering the construction costs, right? I have enough money on hand." Su Wen nodded. "How will the money be divided?" 50-50, Hukui said. Su Wen stroked his teacup. "You know the financial situation these past 2 years. It's not easy to collect debts later on." Kuei was taken aback, then thought for a moment and said, 4 and 6, I get 4. You get 6. Su Wen finished his tea and poured another cup. 10 years. 10 years to get all the money I put in for you. Can you accept that? 10 years? That's too long. President Su, 10 years. Then why are you telling me 4 or 6? Sylvain interrupted Hukui. Hukui thought for a long time, but ultimately gave up. President Su, you decide on this time. Su Wen dipped his finger in the tea and wrote 2 numbers on the table, 28. Su Wen's meaning was clear. Hukui would take 20%, and Su Wen would take 80%. For a project worth 50 to 60 million, the profit, based on industry practice, is at least 15 million. With a 20-80 split, Hukui received 3 million, while Su Wen took 12 million. 3 million. After deducting construction costs, material costs, labor costs, machinery rental fees, and management fees, how much of the 3 million can be left? There might not be a single penny left. They even pay out of their own pockets. Hukui has been working in the building materials industry for 20 years and knows profit margins like the back of his hand. The gross profit margin for municipal road construction projects is between 25% and 30%, but that's under normal construction conditions. If you need to advance funds, the cost of capital occupation will take up at least 5%. Furthermore, with the Yunmeng County government repaying the loan over 3 years and considering the time costs, collection costs, and tax costs in between, they'd be lucky to get a 15% net profit. 15% of 15 million, which is 2.25 million. He takes 20%, which is 450,000. 450,000, which is less than his monthly turnover in the past. This is not cooperation, this is robbery. But Hu Kuei did not refuse immediately. He picked up the teacup and took a sip, the heat making his tongue numb, which made him swallow back the curse that was about to come out of his mouth. Suin wasn't in a hurry. He poured himself another cup of water, put the lid on the kettle, and tapped the handle lightly with his fingertips. President Su. Hu Kuei put down his cup, carefully choosing his words. Isn't too it a bit? What's up? Not very balanced. Suin raised his eyelids slightly. You came to me because you couldn't handle it yourself. I've taken care of what you couldn't handle, and I get the lion's share. Where's the imbalance? Hu Kuei opened his mouth. Suin continued, I don't care if your municipal qualifications are strong enough. I also don't care if your construction team can deliver on time. I only want to ask you one thing. Did you get the information from Bai Chong-won that it was a public tender? Yes. Open bidding means anyone can bid. Lu Ming has money, connections, and lawyers. It would be easy for him to get a qualified company to bid together. What do you have to compete with him? Hu Kuei fell silent. Suin picked up his teacup and slowly blew away the foam. I'm not just giving you 20% of the profit. I'm giving you this target. Hu Kui understood. Suin meant that without him, Hu Kuei wouldn't even have the chance to be a runner-up. But with him, the bid would belong to Hu Kuei, no matter what Lu Ming did. The waters in this county were much deeper than Hu Kuei had imagined. He had been in the building materials business for 20 years and thought he had a solid foundation. But in front of Su Won, his connections and methods were like children playing house. President Su, Hu Kuei tried again. Could we do a 30-70 split? I'll take on more of the construction risks, so you can worry less. Suin remained silent, looking down at his tea. I know you've covered for me, and I appreciate that. But honestly, after I finish this job, I might not even be able to pay the workers' year-end bonuses. Suin placed the teacup on the coaster. Mr. Hu, let me say something unpleasant. Please speak. Your current situation is no longer the time to talk about proportions. Suin raised his head and looked at Hu Kuei. Half of your employees have been poached. Your building materials channels are being devoured by Chongqing wood industry. And the network of relationships you've cultivated in this county for 20 years has been mostly destroyed within a month. Your ex-wife is working for Lu Ming, and you can't even keep an assistant. Hu Kuei's face flushed red, but he did not refute it, because every word he said was true. Suin poured another cup of tea. You came to see me today, not because you had a choice, but because you had no choice. The 20/80th split is already the best solution. If you walk out this door, you may not be able to walk back in next time. The tea room remained quiet for a long time. The faint sound of a tricycle horn carrying recyclables could be heard from the old street outside, echoing in the distance. Hu Kuei kept his head down, his hands rubbing together. His fingers were covered in sweat. He recalled how he stood at the door of Bai Chongwen's office 18 years ago, carrying 2 cartons of Zhonghua cigarettes. Back then, he was young and fearless, believing that as long as he was willing to work hard and deliver goods, there was no obstacle in the county that he couldn't overcome. 18 years of business dealings, gift-giving, drinking, flattery, cleaning up messes, being threatened, and threatening others. In the end, he was beaten to a pulp by a 25-year-old in less than 2 months. Now, they have to hand over their last pair of underwear to someone else. President Su. Hu Kuei's voice was a little hoarse. Suin raised his chin, gesturing for him to speak. I agree. Suin simply waved his hand. Go. Hu Kuei walked out of the tea room and down the stairs. The woman in the Cheongsam pulled back the curtain at the door for him, smiled, and said, Take care. He walked to the alley entrance, stopped, and lit a cigarette. 28. Bygone, a type of Chinese liquor. No, it's not working for free, it's losing money. But he didn't turn around. Because Suwon was right, he had no choice. Without taking that 20%, he wouldn't even be qualified to stand at the poker table. Once you're at the card table, many things become more manageable. Hukuei took a drag of his cigarette, the smoke dissipating in the wind. At the same time, new city building. Fan Yu brought Zhou Qiming, the boss of Hengda, to meet Lu Ming. Fan Yu sat next to Lu Ming, with a company qualification document and 3 copies of contract for projects under construction spread out in front of her. Lu Ming leaned back in his chair and spoke. Mr. Zhou, Attorney Fong should have already told you about the situation on Zhongxin Road. It's a 7.8-kilometer long renovation plus drainage system upgrade, with a budget of 50 to 60 million yuan. It will be put out to public tender, and I will advance the funds. Zhou Qiming nodded. Attorney Fong gave a rough outline. I'll be frank. Lu Ming leaned forward, placing his hands on the table. I don't have any municipal qualifications, so I need your Hengda to bid on my behalf, and I'll also use your construction team. Upon hearing this, Zhou Qiming rubbed his hands together. So what does President Lu mean? In the joint bidding, Hengda provided the qualifications, construction team, and technical management, while Yunming Investment provided all the advance payments. Zhou Qiming's eyes lit up for a moment, then dimmed again. Having worked in engineering for over a decade, he knows all too well what providing all the funds means. Whoever pays the bill is the boss. How will the profits be divided? He asked directly. Lu Ming held up 2 fingers. 2 eighths. I'm 8, you're 2. Zhou Qiming's expression froze for a moment. Fan Yu lowered her head and turned a page without saying a word. Zhou Qiming opened his mouth, then closed it again, his mind racing. He takes 20% out of 20%. For a project worth 50 million. If the profit is 15 million, he gets 20%, which is 3 million. However, he doesn't have to spend a single penny. This is a free job. Mr. Lu, Zhou Qiming leaned forward slightly. Are you sure? Sure. The advance payment of 50 or 60 million, it was all yours. They're all mine. Zhou Qiming glanced at Fan Yu. Fan Yu pushed a cooperation framework agreement over. The terms are all in here. Take it back and take a look. Contact me anytime if you have any questions. Zhou Qiming didn't take the agreement, but instead looked at Lu Ming. Lu Ming smiled and said, There's no trap. You and Attorney Fong have been classmates for many years. Even if we don't care about the monk, we should still give you this 20%. Don't worry. Just remember, the construction quality and efficiency must keep up. Zhou Qiming gripped Lu Ming's hand tightly. Don't worry. President Lu, thank you, and thank you Fong Yu too. I'll have the finance department send over the relevant documents right away. 2 days later, Chongwen was extremely worried. Suwon also put pressure on himself. On one hand, there was a young master from a prominent family, a true Brahmin, and on the other hand, there was a rising star favored by the secretary. He dared not offend either side. At this moment, Qian Jigang walked over and said, Director Bai, this matter is easy to handle. How so? The bidding process will be conducted remotely, and the review authority will be handed over to Secretary Sun to decide. Who wins the bid is none of our business. We shouldn't have to take the blame for this. Bai Chongwen brought Qian Jigang's idea into the county party committee compound. Instead of going to Sun Changming, he knocked on the door of Zhao Haifeng, the deputy county head in charge of urban construction. Zhao Haifeng is 58 years old, and he will reach his destination in 2 years. The most prominent characteristic of this type of person is that they are afraid of trouble. Any approval that gets into their hands will take 3 days to process, which they euphemistically call assessment. Bai Chongwen sat opposite him and laid out the situation. County Chief Zhao, regarding this sign for Central Road, we've contacted both ends. One end is Lu Ming, who has Secretary Sun backing him up. The other end, Bai Chongwen paused for a moment. Zhao Haifeng held his teacup still, waiting for him to speak. On the other end is Suwon. Zhao Haifeng put down his teacup. Suwon got involved too. Nominally, Hu Kuei was the one who submitted the bid, but Suwon was standing behind him. Zhao Haifeng remained silent for a moment before finally saying, I can't sign this. This is exactly what Bai Chonlin was waiting for. County Chief Zhao, what I mean is the same. The review process for this tender is not at the required level. I suggest that it be submitted to the standing committee or at least reported to Secretary Sun for special approval. Zhao Haifeng nodded. Okay, you draft a report, I'll sign my opinion and submit it to Secretary Sunday. Half an hour later, an urgent special report was placed on Sun Changming's desk. The title is Request for Instructions on the Bidding Scheme for the Central Road Renovation Project. The report was written in a very polite manner, but its core message was simple. Given that the project involved corporate upfront investment, a large sum of money and high public attention, it was recommended that a review panel be established, led by the county's main leaders, to ensure fairness and impartiality. After reading the report, Sun Changming put the red pen on the table and did not approve it. I opened the drawer and took out a notebook. This is his own handbook for analyzing the county's economy. Flipping to the most recent pages, you'll find several sets of data. In the first month of Wan Jiafu's opening, it led to the registration of 47 new individual businesses in the catering, retail, and accommodation sectors around the new urban area. Since its establishment, Yunming Investment has directly created 187 new jobs and indirectly created approximately 400 jobs. The county's population increased by 214 people this month, marking the first positive monthly growth in nearly 3 years. These data were sent by the Statistics Bureau last week, and Sun Changming drew a line under 214 people in red pen. For a county town where the population has been declining year after year, a sudden positive growth, even if it's only a little over 200 people, is of great significance to him as the top leader. He turned to another page, on which was a summary he had made himself. Luming's core value is not money, but growth. Every investment he makes creates new consumption, new jobs, and new population. This is something that all the investment projects in Yunming County over the past 10 years have failed to achieve. And what about Su Wen? He understands Su Wen's model. It does not create new resources, but only allocates existing resources. Every penny allocated by the government would be skimmed off by the Su family as soon as it passed through their hands. The Su family doesn't produce anything. They only take a cut during the flow of funds for infrastructure projects in the education sector, hospital procurement, and municipal engineering. This is essentially a form of parasitism. Sun Changming closed his notebook, thought for a while, and then said to Xiao Zheng, "Notify Wang Weiguo of the Finance Bureau, Bai Chonlin of the Housing and Urban Rural Development Bureau, and Director Ma of the Natural Resources Bureau that there will be a meeting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. in the small conference room. Also, have Old Joe from the Discipline Inspection Commission attend as an observer." The Discipline Inspection Commission. Xiao Zheng was taken aback. Yes, just observing. 9 o'clock the next morning. In the county committee's small conference room, 6 people sat around a long table. Sun Changming sat in the main seat, with Wang Weiguo and Director Ma on his left, Bai Chonlin and Zhao Haifeng on his right, and Zhou Dasheng, the Deputy Secretary of the Discipline Inspection Commission, sitting at the very end. When Bai Chonlin entered and saw Zhou Dasheng, his expression froze for a moment, but he quickly recovered. Sun Changming got straight to the point. "I've read the report on the bidding for the renovation of Zhongxin Road. I've called everyone here today, not for a review meeting, but to first reach a consensus on a few fundamental issues." He glanced around at everyone present. First, how many companies have registered to bid? Bai Chonlin opened the folder. As of 5 p.m. yesterday, there were 2 companies. One was Kuaishing Building Materials, and the other was Yunming Investment in conjunction with Hengda Construction Company, Limited. Sun Changming nodded. Both companies meet the qualification requirements. All of them are correct. What's the price quote? Bai Chonlin turned to the next page. The Kuaishing Consortium offered 51 million yuan, with a construction period of 120 days. The Yunming Investment Consortium offered 49 million yuan, with a construction period of 100 days. Sun Changming did not immediately comment, but turned to look at Wang Weiguo. "Old Wang, have you reviewed the contract terms for the advance payment model?" Wang Weiguo adjusted his glasses. "It's been reviewed." Yinming Investment has promised to advance the full amount and repay it in equal installments over 3 years, without interest. The contract text prepared by legal counsel Fong Yu is very standardized. Our legal department has reviewed it clause by clause, and there are no problems. What about Kuwait-sheng? Wang Weiguo paused for a moment. The Kuwaitian Consortium has not put forward a clear plan for advance funding. At present, it is requesting the Ministry of Finance to allocate funds according to the progress. Sun Changming's gaze swept over the crowd. Everyone, what do you think? No one present expressed their opinion. If Suwon hadn't been behind Kuwait-sheng, everything would have been fine. But now that he is, it's a different story. Since the top leader doesn't express his opinion, no one below dares to speak up. Sun Changming turned to Zhou Dasheng. Old Zhou, what's your opinion? Zhou Dasheng worked in the County Discipline Inspection Commission for 12 years, and he always carefully chose his words. Procedurally speaking, open bidding and prioritizing high-quality and low-price bids are the basic principles. The Yinming Investment Consortium's bid was $2 million lower, the construction period was 20 days shorter, and they provided full advance funding. Any review committee that receives these 2 bids will reach only one conclusion. He paused for a moment, then added another sentence. Of course, if someone wants to get a different conclusion, then there must be a problem with the procedure, and then our disciplinary committee will have a very difficult time. Bai Chongwen lowered his head and took a sip of water, his hand steady. Zhao Haifeng flipped through his notebook, scribbling and drawing on it. Upon closer inspection, he had only written 4 words, "Listen attentively." Sun Changming stood up, walked to the whiteboard, and picked up a marker. He drew a line on the whiteboard, wrote existing stock on the left, and incremental stock on the right. Everyone, I've been thinking about this question for the past 2 years. What exactly is supporting the economy of Yunmeng County? No one responded. We rely on fiscal transfer payments, remittances from migrant workers, and income from land sales. Sun Changming wrote these 3 items under existing assets. These are all existing assets. They're money given to us by others, not money we earned ourselves. He turned around and looked at everyone present. Luming has been here for less than 3 months, and Wan Jiafu has been open for a month. The supermarket has driven 47 newly registered individual businesses and created nearly 200 direct jobs. The population has increased by 214 people this month. He wrote these 3 numbers under increment. This is an increase. Sun Changming put down the marker. The Central Road connects not only the old town and the new town, but also the past and future of Yunmeng County. Whoever is entrusted with building this road determines which side we choose to stand on. Serving as an official means bringing benefits to the people in one's jurisdiction. The burden on our shoulders is heavy, but no matter how heavy the burden is, it cannot crush our rationality. All of you here will retire in a few years. All the work you do in these last few years will directly affect your lives after retirement. Having said all that, Sun Changming had already made his stance clear. Wang Weiguo immediately replied, Secretary Sun is absolutely right. Yunmeng County needs to embrace the future. On behalf of the Finance Bureau, I personally support Yunmeng Investment. Seeing this, Bai Chongwen also said the Housing and Urban Rural Development Bureau also supports it. Director Ma of the Land and Resources Bureau, of course I support him. Lu Ming is capable and decisive. I believe that under Secretary Sun's leadership, he will definitely bring a different tomorrow to Yunmeng. Zhao Haifeng finally put down his pen. I have no objection. Sun Changming nodded. Unanimously approved. That means the Yunmeng Investment Consortium has won the bid, and the public announcement period begins today. Lao Bai, the announcement period is 3 working days. If there are no objections after the announcement period, the contract will be signed. Bai Chongwen accepted the signed document with a sigh of relief. After the meeting, Bai Chongwen walked down the corridor, took out his phone, hesitated for a long time, and finally sent a message to Suwon. President Su, the deal is settled. Ooh, Yunmeng Investment. Suwon did not reply to Bai Chongwen's message. Bai Chongwen waited an hour and then sent another message. No reply. Bai Chongwen turned off his phone screen and let out a long sigh. He felt more at ease. Su Wen is the kind of person who doesn't express his opinion when he wins, and he expresses even less so when he loses. Not replying to messages is a clear statement. It means that this matter ends here and you shouldn't contact me again. Hu Kuei was unaware of these things. He made 4 calls to Su Wen the following morning, all of which went to voicemail. I sent 3 WeChat messages, but didn't get a reply to any of them. At 2 p.m., he drove to Ingbin Old Street. The tea room door was closed, and the woman in the Cheongsam stood in the doorway with the same expression as last time. Only this time, she said something different. President Su is not here today. I'll wait for him. President Su instructed that no guests will be received today. Hu Kuei stood at the alley entrance, staring at the wooden door for a long time. The early spring wind blew in from the alley entrance, causing the hem of his coat to flip up. He suddenly felt that this old street was unfamiliar. He had been walking on it for 20 years, but today felt like the first time he had ever been there. He took out his phone and dialed Su Wen's number again. The number you dialed is currently switched off. The computer is off. Hu Kuei put his phone back in his pocket, turned around, and got into the car. When I started the engine, my hand trembled slightly, and it took me 2 tries to shift the gear lever. Back at the company, the entire building was so quiet it was as if it had been shut down. The corridor lights were only half on. The other half were broken, and no one was fixing them. Several bags of cement that arrived last month were piled up at the warehouse entrance. The packaging paper was damp and soft. The office was quiet, with scraps of paper and cigarette butts scattered all over the floor, unattended. His manpower had been almost completely drained by Lu Ming. Hu Kuei sat in his leather chair, leaning back and staring at the ceiling. He sat in that office until dark. No one came looking for him. No phone rang, and no assistant knocked on the door. 20 years. This office used to be bustling with people from morning till night. People seeking his approval, inviting him for drinks, asking him for favors, and giving him money. Now, all you can hear is the rustling of the wind outside the window. On the 3rd night, Lu Ming arrived. Fang Hung parked the Maybach downstairs at Kueisheng Building Materials, turned off the engine, and turned off the lights. Wait for me in the car. Good. Lu Ming pushed open the building door. The hallway was dark, so he used his phone to shine a light on the light switch on the wall. 2nd floor. The office door was ajar, letting in a little light. Lu Ming pushed the door open and went in. Hu Kuei sat behind his desk, a bottle of Matai in front of him. He had opened it, poured himself a glass, but didn't drink it. Several account books were spread out on the desk, one of which was pressed down by a pen when he turned to the middle. He was wearing a gray sweater with a slightly loose collar, stubble on his chin, and sunken eye sockets. He showed no surprise upon seeing Lu Ming. Mr. Lu, that's a bit beneath you. You lost, so why did you come all this way to laugh at me? Lu Ming didn't say anything, but sat down in the chair opposite him and looked around the office. The banner still hangs on the wall, but the 4 characters, honest business practices, are covered in dust. There's a row of group photos on the bookshelf, photos of Hu Kuei with different leaders, some of the frames of which were cracked. Hu Kuei filled the cup opposite him and pushed it over. Lu Ming did not answer. The 2 sat facing each other in silence for about half a minute. Hu Kuei spoke first. You win. Lu Ming nodded, his tone completely calm. Right. Hu Kuei picked up the cup, took a sip, and when he put it down, the bottom of the cup hit the table with a crisp sound. Lu Ming looked at him. Chen Ziyuan's recording and the fact that the Rural Commercial Bank approved the loan illegally are enough to get you into serious trouble. This doesn't even include the bribes you've given over the years. Fang Yu has already prepared a complete package of materials, which can be submitted at any time. Hu Kuei paused for a moment. Lu Ming continued. Once you submit the application, you will most likely face 5 to 10 years in prison, depending on how the prosecution and the court determine the charges and combine them. I will also take over your factory and family business. Mr. Hu, you've worked hard for 20 years, and you've lost everything. After saying this, Hu Kuei's eyes were filled with anger as he glared at Lu Ming. After a long while, he sighed again, his tone filled with relief. It rose to prominence here, and it will also perish here. He took another sip of wine. Lu Ming, let me ask you this. If I hadn't tried to bribe you from the beginning, but instead competed fairly according to your rules, would the outcome have been different? Lu Ming smiled. I really like Matai. I have even better ones at home. Lu Ming did not respond. I accept losing to you. Hu Kuei put down his cup, his voice turning cold. Why? Why did you have to share the money with them? Those employees don't deserve such high salaries. And why did you have to try to kill me? Wouldn't it be better if we just kept to ourselves? Lu Ming did not answer immediately. He stood up and walked to the window. Outside the window is the courtyard of Kueisheng Building Materials. Only 3 cars remain in the empty parking lot. The streetlights illuminate the cement ground, where there are several black tire tracks. Mr. Hu, which do you think is more important to me, money or you? Hu Kuei stared at his retreating figure for a moment, lost in thought. Lu Ming shook his head. Hu Kuei then said, It's not money, is it? Lu Ming shook his head again. Hu Kuei was silent for a few seconds, rubbed his hands together, and gave a dry laugh. Then it's still me. Lu Ming turned around and looked at Hu Kuei. Neither money nor you are important to me. Hu Kuei was taken aback. Lu Ming walked back to the table and placed both hands on it. You are not important to me. Hu Kuei and Lu Ming stared at each other for a long time. He sighed and said, Lu Ming, you're very capable. I admit it. I can understand your eagerness to break with the old rules. But the tomorrow you want will never come. Lu Ming sat down without replying. Hu Kuei continued, In Yunming County, on this small piece of land, I, Hu Kuei, am nothing. I'm just a clown performing on stage. The real talents are behind the scenes, in places where you, Lu Ming, can never interfere. Lu Ming looked up at him and asked, Are you talking about Su Wen? Hu Kuei did not deny it. Lu Ming said with disdain, President Hu, you underestimate me and overestimate him. You can't beat him, Hu Kuei said. 3 generations of his family have been in politics, controlling the education and healthcare sectors. President Hu, Lu Ming shook his head. You still don't understand. I never thought about fighting with anyone. I just want to do business well, attract and retain talent, and let them contribute to the development of Yunming County. To achieve this, a clean environment is essential. The people I've recruited are all capable, and their energy should be focused on getting things done, not on dealing with certain people. I can only invite others in after I've cleaned my own yard first. So, Hu Kuei asked, So, whether it's Su Wen or anyone else, if they take you as a warning and stop now, that's fine. What if he doesn't stop? At that moment, Lu Ming's phone rang. It was Shinli calling. Lu Ming answered the call and put on speakerphone. President Lu, the groundbreaking ceremony for the renovation of Zhongxin Road is scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow. Secretary Zheng from the County Party Committee just called to say that Secretary Sun has invited representatives from the 4 leading bodies to attend, as well as relevant county-level leaders. Okay. Lu Ming hung up the phone and asked Hu Kuei, What did you just say? Hu Kuei was completely deflated after hearing the phone call, but still said, What if Su Wen doesn't stop? Lu Ming stood up, walked to the door, looked back at Hu Kuei one last time, and smiled slightly. Just pack it all up at the same time. Su Guodong's home is in Wenyao Lane in the Old City. A 2-story courtyard house with white-painted exterior walls, 2 pomegranate trees planted at the entrance, and a courtyard kept very clean. Compared to its neighbors, this house wasn't even considered luxurious. But many people know that this alley originally belonged to the old Su family residence. Before liberation, the entire Wenyao Lane, plus the half-street behind it, belonged to the Su family. Later, it was handed over to the public, leaving only this courtyard. For 60 years, the Su family has lived here without ever moving. At 9 o'clock in the evening, Su Guodong was making tea in his study on the 2nd floor. He is 59 years old this year, with gray hair, wearing old-fashioned glasses and a cotton coat, dressed simply. The bookshelf contains county annals, local historical and cultural materials, and several thread-bound family genealogies. When Su Wen pushed the door open and came in, Su Guodong was reading a book called Yunming County Education Chronicle. He turned to the page about 1998, which had his own annotations on it. Dad, Su Guodong didn't look up, but pointed with his chin at the chair opposite him. Su Wen sat down. The father and son remained silent for a while. Su Guodong closed the book, took off his glasses, and rubbed the bridge of his nose. I've heard about what happened on Zhongxin Road. Suwen did not respond. Su Guodong put his glasses back on and looked at his son. You've always been steady and reliable. Over the years, I've generally not interfered with what you've done. But this time, why did you think of competing with Lu Ming for the bid? Su Guodong looked at Suwen. Suwen leaned back in his chair and placed his hands folded in front of his abdomen. Dad, I didn't fight him for it. Hu Kuei came to us. I just gave him a push and tested Lu Ming's strength. Su Guodong remained silent, waiting for Suwen to step down. Suwen remained silent for a few seconds. I misjudged the situation. I didn't expect Sun Changming to personally make the decision. Su Guodong took a sip of tea and put down the cup. It's not that you misjudged the situation. It's that you shouldn't have sat at this table in the first place. Suwen looked up at him. Su Guodong stood up and walked to the window. Outside the window is an old locust tree in Wenyao Lane, its canopy blocking out half the sky. Moonlight leaks through the gaps in the leaves, falling on the blue brick ground and breaking into pieces. Back then, your grandfather handed over all the family's land, shops, and granaries. When people asked him if he felt bad about it, he said 4 words. Suwen replied, "We must preserve our health." That's right. Su Guodong turned around. 3 generations. Your grandfather handed over the business, I managed the relationships, and it should be time for you to reap the rewards. But there are rules for reaping the rewards. You can't be hasty, you can't be greedy, and you can't stand in the spotlight. Dad, I didn't get to stand in front of the stage. You didn't even stand on the platform? You were practically advertising it in the newspaper. Su Guodong's voice turned stern. Did you think old Joe from the Discipline Inspection Commission was just there for show at the bidding meeting? Suwen's fingers tightened slightly. Su Guodong walked back to the tea table and sat down again. Secretary Sun is a man of deep thoughts. He publicly supported Lu Ming at the meeting, and that was the tone he set. You can't walk into the line of fire. Our generation's survival philosophy is to follow the top leader and never go against him. It's too late, Suwen said. Too late. Dad, there's something I need to tell you. Su Guodong looked at him. Suwen said, I have already spoken with Principal Zhou of the vocational high school. We will not arrange for students to intern at Wanjia for this summer. Su Guodong paused in his action of putting down the cup. Principal Zhou's side has more than 300 graduates every year. Wanjiafu will definitely select from this group when they expand their enrollment this year. So, I've blocked the way in advance. Su Guodong stared at his son for 5 seconds without saying a word. Suwen added, It's already been confessed. There's no going back. Su Guodong put down the cup, stood up, walked to the bookshelf, took out an old county gazetteer, flipped through a couple of pages, and then put it back. Son, remember this. Flowing water doesn't compete for being first, it competes for being endless. Okay, Suwen replied and returned to his room. After Suwen left, Su Guodong sent a message to Zhou Fumin of the vocational high school. If Wanjiafu has any labor needs, we can cooperate normally. Don't obstruct it. This will also reduce the burden on you and me. Suwen returned to his room and sent a message to Zhou Fumin. If my dad says anything to you, don't listen. Do as I say. Don't forget our agreement. I have other uses for your 300 graduates this summer. 9 o'clock the next morning. The southern starting point of Zhongxin Road, at the junction of the old city and the new city. A banner was stretched behind the temporary stage. Land renovation project of Central Road in Yunmeng County commences. A simple sunshade was set up on site. 3 rows of plastic chairs were placed, and a red carpet was laid in front of the construction fence. When Lu Ming arrived, Shunli had already arrived and was standing next to the registration desk, wearing a dark gray suit skirt and holding a folder in her hand. How many people have arrived? Lu Ming asked. Representatives from all 4 leading bodies are here, Shunli reported in a low voice. Secretary Sun, Director Zhao of the People's Congress, Chairman Li of the CPPCC, and Executive Deputy County Head Zhao Haifeng. Wang Weiguo of the Finance Bureau, Bai Chongwen of the Housing and Urban Rural Development Bureau, Director Ma of the Natural Resources Bureau, and Director Zhang Guanghua of the Commerce Bureau are all here. Lu Ming glanced around the scene and asked, "Where is Zhou Qiming from Hengda? He'll keep an eye on things with the construction team, and once the ribbon cutting is over, he'll organize them to move in." Lu Ming nodded, straightened his collar, and walked towards the podium. Sun Changming was already standing on the stage talking to Director Zhao of the People's Congress when he saw Lu Ming coming over and turned to greet him. "Come, Mr. Lu, let me introduce these two to you. Director Zhao Dihai of the National People's Congress and Li Mingyi of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference." Sun Changming introduced them one by one. "And this is Lu Ming, what do you think?" Lu Mingyi shook hands with them, and the two veteran leaders exclaimed, "Heroes emerge from among the young." Sun Changming patted Lu Ming on the shoulder, said nothing more, and turned to go on stage. The groundbreaking ceremony officially began. Sun Changming spoke for 5 minutes, and the core message was just one sentence. This road doesn't just connect two urban areas, it connects the past and the future of Yunmen County. Wang Weigua, representing the Finance Bureau, confirmed that the advance payment agreement was legal and compliant. Bai Chongwon, representing the Housing and Urban Rural Development Bureau, read out the project overview. When it was Lu Ming's turn to speak, he only said 3 sentences. "First, I'm from Yunmeng, so building this road is my duty. Second, the quality of the project is the bottom line, and I personally oversaw the entire process. Third, once the road is finished, I welcome every fellow Yunmeng native to come home and visit." At 9:30, the ribbon-cutting ceremony took place. Sun Changming, Lu Ming, Director Zhao, and Zhao Haifeng each held a pair of golden scissors. The moment the red ribbon tore, the excavator started up, its tracks rolling onto the road surface, and the roar of the diesel engine drowned out the applause at the scene. Lu Ming stood on the platform, watching the first shovel of soil being turned up inside the construction enclosure, the smell of soil mixed with the smell of diesel wafting over. Construction on Zhongxin Road has officially begun. After the groundbreaking ceremony, Lu Ming was about to get into his car to inspect Wan Jiafu when Zhang Guanghua quickly walked over from the crowd. "President Lu." Lu Ming stopped in his tracks. Zhang Guanghua leaned closer, his smile radiant. "President Lu, construction has started on Central Road, and the provincial department wants to hear a progress report at the end of the month. As for the cultural tourism town, can we put on the agenda as soon as possible?" Lu Ming glanced at him. Zhang Guanghua rubbed his hands together. "The Xishan Hot Spring area, 820 acres, a project worth 1.2 billion yuan, is being closely monitored by the provincial department. It can't just remain on paper." Lu Ming smiled and said, "Sure, I was originally planning to go to Wanjiafu first and then do an on-site inspection this afternoon. Since Director Zhang has said so, let's go now." No rush, Zhang Guanghua said. "President Lu, if you have something to do, go ahead and do it this afternoon. But there's something I need to let you know in advance." "What's up?" "In the Hot Spring area, there are over 20 holdout households with huge appetites. The reason the previous investor ultimately didn't invest was because these 20-odd households were holding them back. They're demanding an apartment in the county town, plus a subsidy of 500,000 yuan per household. That means each household will basically lose 1 million yuan. More than 20 households, over 20 million? Lu Ming asked. Zhang Guanghua nodded awkwardly. "Yes, it's difficult. The last developer was worn down and driven away." Lu Ming thought about it and decided that he could give the money, but it would only be 1/3 of his daily income. "But we can't keep opening the floodgates like this. If we use more land in the future, our appetite will grow. Today we'll ask for 50, tomorrow for 100. No one can afford that. Another point is that once the villagers receive 500,000 yuan, there's a very high probability they'll flock to the city, which is something Lu Ming doesn't want to see." Lu Ming thought for a moment and said, "Let's go take a look first." When it came to demolition compensation, Lu Ming called on Fang Yu. Fang Yu wore a beige trench coat with a light blue shirt underneath. Her hair was loose and draped over her shoulders. She also touched up her light makeup before leaving the house. Fang Heng knew what was going on. Since he returned from military service, Fanya had been using more and more cosmetics and wearing makeup more and more often. Although Fanya had always been refined, that refinement was something that came naturally to the Fong family, unlike this kind of deliberate dressing up. Fong Hen got out of the car and opened the back door for her. Fong Yu bent down to get into the car and sat down on the right side of the back seat. Lu Ming was already sitting on the left, flipping through the hot spring area planning map sent by Zhang Guanghua. Let's go. The Maybach drove out of the new city area and headed west along the provincial highway. Zhang Guanghua led the way in his own car, a black Passat with a license plate indicating it was an official vehicle. Leaving the county town and walking along the country road, there are vast wheat fields on both sides. In April, the wheat seedlings have already taken shape, and a gentle breeze blows, causing waves of wheat to ripple. The vehicle drove over a pothole, and Fong Hung slowed down, but the vehicle still bounced a few times. Fong Yu reached out and grabbed the car door handle. Lu Ming didn't even look up. Fong Hung slowed down. Okowo. Fong Hung glanced at it in the rearview mirror. His sister sat next to Lu Ming, about a fist's distance between them. Fong Yu was looking at her phone, while Lu Ming was looking at blueprints. Fong Yu would glance at Lu Ming every now and then, for very short moments, as if afraid of being noticed by Lu Ming, and Lu Ming indeed did not notice. But Fong Hung discovered it. Fong Hung suddenly felt like he was an extra person on this trip. He looked away and focused on the road. After driving for about 20 minutes, the terrain began to rise. A side road leads towards Shishan. After walking less than 2 kilometers along the side road, the view suddenly opens up. Fong Hung unconsciously stepped on the brakes. The valley unfolds gently, flanked by rolling hills covered with thick mixed forests, where fresh green and dark green intermingle across the entire slope. There is a stream at the bottom of the valley. The water is not large, but it is so clear that you can see the pebbles at the bottom. The stream comes out of the mountains and flows eastward along the terrain, where it converges into a shallow pool at an open river beach. There are several large rocks by the pool, their surfaces covered with white mineral crystals. A few wisps of water vapor rose from between the rocks, spreading into a thin layer of mist, swirling and enchanting, like a fairyland. Spa. Fanya put down her phone and turned her head to look out the window. Lu Ming also raised his head. Stop for a moment. Fong Hung pulled over to the side of the road. Lu Ming pushed open the door and went downstairs, standing by the roadside and scanning the entire valley. Zhang Guanghua's Passat also stopped ahead. Zhang Guanghua got out of the car and walked over, his face beaming with smiles. Mr. Lu, what do you think? Isn't this place nice? Lu Ming didn't reply, his gaze sweeping along the valley. The south-facing hillside has a gentle slope, making it suitable for building resort hotels or a cluster of goose houses. The mountains to the north are slightly steeper and the forests are denser, so the original ecology can be preserved for hiking or health trails. The stream at the bottom of the valley is a natural landscape axis. If a boardwalk were built along the stream, extending from the mountain pass all the way to the source of the hot spring, and then lit up, the night view would be spectacular. It's not far from the county town, but it's separated by 2 mountain ridges, which block out all the noise and dust from the outside. The wind blew in from the mouth of the valley, carrying the scent of earth and vegetation, mixed with a hint of sulfur. A few strands of Fong Yu's hair were blown into disarray, and she raised her hand to tuck them behind her ear. This place is a hidden paradise, Fong Yu exclaimed. Fong Hung leaned against the car door, watching the 2 people standing by the roadside talking. His sister's gaze was fixed on the valley, but her body was slightly turned towards Lu Ming's side. In the military, these details would be called nonverbal signals. Fong Hung silently shifted his gaze and stared at a crooked pine tree on a distant hillside for a long time. Don't look at things you shouldn't look at. That's the rule. Zhang Guanghua pointed towards the valley floor. President Lu, the hot spring is over there. There are 3 water outlets in total. The water temperature is between 40 and 50 degrees Celsius. The water quality has been tested by the Provincial Bureau of Geology and Mineral Resources. It is rich in metasilicic acid and strontium, meeting the standards for medical hot mineral water. Do you have a geological and mineral report? Feng Yu asked. Yes, yes, yes. Zhang Guanghua took a file folder out of the car and handed it over. This is the complete set of documents we prepared when we were attracting investment back then. Geological surveys, hydrological reports, and environmental impact assessments are all in here. Feng Yu took it, flipped through 2 pages, and handed it to Lu Ming. Lu Ming glanced at the water quality data and closed the book. Enter the village. After another 10 minutes, the road became narrower and narrower. The Maybach's chassis was low, and the undercarriage scraped against protruding stones several times. Feng Hung frowned, feeling a pang of heartache. A settlement appeared ahead, with about 30 households scattered along both banks of the stream. Mud brick houses and red brick houses are mixed together, and utility poles stand crookedly by the roadside. At the entrance of the village stands an old locust tree, its trunk so thick that it takes 2 people to encircle it, and its canopy covers half of the threshing ground. The car was parked under an old locust tree at the entrance of the village. Zhang Guanghua straightened his collar and walked at the front. A dozen or so people, both men and women, gathered at the village entrance, most of them over 50 years old. Several people were squatting by the wall, eating their meals, holding bowls. When they saw the car approaching, they stood up but didn't go to greet it. Zhang Guanghua walked to the front of the crowd and cleared his throat. Fellow villagers, I'm Zhang Guanghua from the County Bureau of Commerce. I am here today to give you an update. The county has introduced a large enterprise that plans to develop cultural tourism in our Wunquan village and build a hot spring resort town. As soon as he finished speaking, several snickers rang out from the crowd. An old man in a dark blue cotton-padded jacket spoke up. Here we go again? That boss said the same thing last time. Zhang Guanghua's smile froze for a moment. This time is different. This is President Liu. Different. A middle-aged woman wearing a gray headscarf chimed in. When have they ever said they were different? They've been saying it for years, measured the land, drawn up maps. And in the end, they just left without saying a word. Someone in the crowd laughed. Zhang Guanghua glanced back at Lu Ming, but Lu Ming didn't come forward. He stood under the locust tree with his hands in his pockets, listening. Zhang Guanghua forced himself to continue. Fellow villagers, this time is indeed different from before. Mr. Liu is a local from Yunming. You should all have heard of the Wanji office supermarket he invested in and built, right? He also paid for the renovation of Zhongxin Road. I've heard of it. The woman with the gray headscarf nodded, but her tone remained unchanged. I've heard of it, but when it comes to our houses and land, the places where our ancestors have lived for generations, the old rules still apply. Fellow villager, Zhang Guanghua said, you can't say that. Building the hot spring town is also a benefit to you. If business is good, won't you also benefit? Benefit from this? We've lost our home. What benefits are we talking about? A house plus 500,000 yuan, and that's the condition, otherwise forget it. Lu Ming was about to step forward and speak. In the crowd, a woman in her 50s suddenly squeezed out from the back row. She was short, dark-skinned, wearing an apron, and her hands were covered in flour, as if she had just run out of the kitchen. She stared at Lu Ming for several seconds, looking him up and down, before her gaze lingered on his face. You, the eldest sister, tilted her head and squinted her eyes. You're Jianjun's nephew, aren't you? Lu Ming looked at the woman covered in flour in front of him and didn't recognize her at first. Sister Hua. Zhang Guanghua leaned closer and whispered a reminder. She's the women's director of Wunquan Village. The older sister ignored Zhang Guanghua, wiped her hands on her apron, circled Lu Ming halfway around, and laughed more and more as she looked at him. It's you, Jianjun's nephew, with those thick eyebrows and big eyes. You're definitely a member of the Liu family. Lu Ming was stunned. Sister Hua, do you know me? How could I not recognize you? Sister Hua slapped her thigh. Your third aunt, Zhao Xiufen, is my cousin. When you were little, your third uncle and aunt brought you to visit my family. You were only 3 or 4 years old then. In the middle of summer, you were running around a yard naked. Your third aunt was afraid you would get pecked by chickens, so she held you. You peed all over your third aunt. The villagers burst into laughter. Zhang Guanghua stood frozen in place, unsure whether to laugh or stop them. Lu Ming was embarrassed. He was the only son of the Lu family in this generation and was showered with love and affection. When Lu Yuan was little, her parents were sometimes busy, so her third aunt would often take care of her together. Sister Hua, that happened 20 years ago. Lu Ming could only accept it. Sister Hua smiled from ear to ear. That's right, it's been 20 years. Back then you were so chubby and fair-skinned, just like a doll in a New Year's painting. I said back then that this child would definitely amount to something. Fan Yu looked down as she flipped through the geological and mining reports. A New Year picture doll with its bare bottom running around the yard. She went through the scene in her mind and felt that the trip had been worthwhile. As Sister Hua was talking, she reached out to pinch Lu Ming's face. Lu Ming turned his head slightly to avoid it. Sister Hua, I'm already 25. So what if you're 25? In my eyes, you're still that naked little kid. Sister Hua's eyes narrowed into slits with laughter. How's your third aunt's health? Okay, that's good. That's good. Sister Hua nodded, her tone suddenly softening. Your third aunt is a good person. When my family was building our house, she lent me 20,000 yuan. I still remember that. Zhang Guanghua felt the time was right and interjected, Sister Hua, you see, President Liu is definitely one of our own. Before he could finish speaking, a voice from the crowd interrupted him. Sister Hua, you haven't been turned by them, have you? The speaker was a thin man in his 40s with a buzz cut, a gray towel draped around his neck, and his hands in his pockets. Sister Hua turned her head and glared at him. Zhou Sanner, what nonsense are you spouting? I didn't fart. Zhou Sanner took 2 steps forward. Sister Hua, he's your relative, but he's not mine. Last time that developer came, didn't he also talk to his connections in the village first? Someone in the crowd chimed in. That's right. We can't let ourselves be led astray. Sister Hua's face flushed red. When have I, Hua, Suaping, ever taken hush money from anyone? You, Zhou Sanner, explain yourself clearly. I didn't say you took it. I was talking about last time. Zhou Sanner took a step back but didn't stop talking. Anyway, relatives are relatives, and demolition compensation is demolition compensation. They can't be mixed up. Sister Hua was so angry that she took off her apron and was about to go forward to argue with them. Lu Ming spoke up. This man is right. He glanced around at the people present and continued. I'm here today mainly to hear what everyone thinks. A middle-aged woman with a gray headscarf spoke first. Mr. Liu, right? My surname is Wang. To be honest, we're not unreasonable people, nor are we trying to make exorbitant demands. But this place has been where my grandfather's generation lived. In my family's yard, there's a walnut tree that my father planted. When he passed away, he told me, take good care of this yard. As long as the tree is there, our home is there. An old man squatted by the wall, tapping his pipe. I can't get used to living in the houses in the county town. The elevators make me dizzy. I just want to die in this courtyard and be buried with my wife. Lu Ming stood there without interrupting anyone. Fan Yu walked over from beside the car at some point and stood 2 steps behind Lu Ming. She didn't say anything and listened quietly. Zhou Sanner also said, I'm not against development. You want to build hot springs and tourism, fine, but don't touch my house. Generations of us have lived in that house. You're just going to demolish it for business purposes? Zhang Guanghua stood at the back. He had seen this kind of scene many times before. The logic of holdout residents is simple. It's not that they think the money is too little. It's that they don't want to leave. Money can be earned, but you can't move your home back. After listening to everyone's words, Lu Ming's gaze shifted from the old locust tree by the stream to the distant hillside, and then back to the bluestone path beneath his feet. The road was paved by the villagers themselves. The stone slabs are of different sizes, and moss grows in the cracks. The houses in the village are also made of blue bricks and gray tiles, each with its own characteristics. This is not common in many modern villages in the north. The misty atmosphere gives it a bit of the flavor of the water towns in Jiangnan. It's a real shame to demolish this house. Lu Ming said, I have an idea. Let me share it with you all. Everyone looked at him. Your houses don't need to be demolished. Everyone present was stunned. Zhang Guanghua thought he had misheard and blurted out, "President Liu, what did you say?" Lu Ming ignored him and continued speaking. "I said, your houses don't need to be demolished, and your graves don't need to be moved." A buzzing sound arose from the crowd. "I'm not here today to talk about demolition and relocation." He pointed to the valley behind him. "What's the most valuable thing in this valley? Hot springs?" "Yes, but not entirely." Lu Ming took 2 steps forward and stepped onto the bluestone slabs of the threshing ground. "It's the village itself." Everyone fell silent. Tourists from outside spend thousands of yuan to come to the mountains to soak in hot springs. They're not just soaking in water, but in something they can't find in the city. Streams, old trees, stone paths, cooking smoke, roosters crowing, dogs barking. These are all things that you can't find in the city. "So this is what I think." Everyone present, including Zhang Guanghua, pricked up their ears. "The houses will be preserved, and we will renovate them, including water, electricity, and internet, to transform them into unique ghost houses and maximize their utility." On Wednesday, he snorted coldly. "In the end, you still want us to move out, Mr. Liu? We really can't get used to living in the city, and we don't have the money to live there. Here, on our small plot of land, we won't starve. Go to the city? Huh, everything costs money." "Brother Zhou, don't rush. Let me finish," Lu Ming continued. "Since I've used your house, I will naturally arrange housing of equal size for you in the city. If you don't want that, you can also pay in cash. One more thing I want to say is that you're all native locals. You have a deep affection for this place and are very familiar with it. After my hot spring town is built, it will need a large number of service personnel. In principle, you will be the main ones to take charge of this. You want us to work for you?" Wednesday asked, "How much money can you pay us?" "How much money do you earn in a year now?" Lu Ming asked in return. 5. "No, I can earn at least 10,000 yuan a year." Wednesday deliberately exaggerated. "You're talking nonsense." Sister Hua interrupted. "Wu Zhou, you planted gold? Earning 10,000 a year." Lu Ming waved his hand and said, "You won't be idle during the period between the relocation and the completion of the town. The initial construction, landscaping, and cleaning all require manpower, so we will give you priority. Your monthly salary is 5,000. Once the town is officially operational, you will become formal employees and participate in the town's profit sharing every year. The specific percentage will be written in black and white in the contract." After a moment of silence, Sister Hua spoke first. "This is easy to calculate. A long-term, stable job is better than anything else." Zhou Sanner opened his mouth as if to say something, but then swallowed it back. It seemed to make sense. At his age, he couldn't earn 5,000 a month if he went out to find a job. But since no one spoke, he didn't dare to speak first. Finally, the old man who had been squatting by the wall stood up, tapped his pipe against the sole of his shoe twice, and slowly said, "Mr. Liu, please allow us to discuss this." At this moment, Zhang Guanghua's phone rang. He answered it respectfully, listened for a few words, and then looked at Lu Ming. After hanging up the phone, Zhang Guanghua said, "President Liu, County Head He, who is in charge of education, has something he'd like to ask for your help with. This year, there are over 300 vocational high school graduates facing severe job placement pressure. He's asking if you can help with a batch of them." Without hesitation, Lu Ming replied, "Yes, we can. Just have Shenli handle the coordination.